In this chapter, we're going to be talking about conditional statements. So we're going to talk about if else, else if, and switch statements. And what they do is basically just check for a condition, and if that condition is met, then it'll do something, and if it's not, it can do something else. So every programming, well, just about every real programming language has some kind of conditional statements that you can use. That's what makes all the decisions. So I'm going to create a new folder called Chapter 2, Section 5. Put that right in there. And we're just going to need one file for this, and that's going to be an HTML file. Alright, so let's open that up in our browser as well as Notepad. And I'm just going to paste in my HTML. So let's start with something real simple. We'll start with just some basic algebra. So let's open up our script tags. And what I'm going to do is create a variable called x, and let's set that equal to 5. Now, we can check for a few different things. We can check if x is equal to 5 or not equal to 5. We can check if x is greater than something or less than something. So what I'm going to do is say if, and the if statement is set up I guess like a function. You have if and then the parentheses, which take parameters, and then the curly braces, which what you want to put, where you want to type whatever you want it to do if a certain condition is true. So we're going to say if x, let's just say if x is equal to 5. Now this operator here, this double equals, this is a comparison. This is an assignment. So if you have one equal sign, you're assigning something to something. So in this case, we're assigning 5 to x, or x to 5. In this case, we're comparing it. We're saying, is x equal to 5? Alright, so that's very important to differentiate these two symbols, okay, the double and single equal sign. So let's say if x is equal to 5, what we want to do here, I guess let's just alert. We'll alert, yes it is. Okay, so if we save this, and let's open up let's reload this, we get an alert that says yes it is. So let's change the value of x. Let's change it to 4 and save. If we reload, it doesn't do anything. Alright, so we can set this up so that it does do something using an else statement. So we can say else, and then we want to open up some curly braces, and inside that we put what we want if it's not true. So let's say alert we'll say no it is not. Okay, so if we reload that, we get no it is not. And like I said, we can use different kinds of conditions here. We can say if x is greater than, or I'll say, yeah, if x is greater than 5. So we get no it's not, because x is equal to 4 and 4 is less than 5. So this is very simple algebra, really. If we change this to 6, we get yes it is. Now if we change this to 5, we get no it's not, and the reason for that is we're asking if it's lower than 5. If we want to ask if it's 5 or lower, then we can say is greater than or equal to 5, which will make it yes it is. Now what if we want to check multiple conditions? We can do that with what's called a logical operator, and we've used these actually in this chapter. We have and, or, not, and these have different symbols. So let me just go down here. If you want to check if something and something else is true, we would use and, which uses 2 ampersands. If we want to use or, we would use 2 pipes. If we want to use not, that's 1 pipe. Okay, so those are the different symbols we can use. So let's say if x is, we'll just say if x is greater than 5 and x is less than, let's say, 10. Alright, so we're using the AND logical operator. We could also say OR if x is greater than 5 or x is less than 10. So let's just see what we get here. Let's say 4. Obviously this is going to say no, it's not. 4 is not greater than 5, and well, it is less than 10, but it's not greater than 5. In this case, both of these need to be true. If we change this to OR, which is represented as 2 pipes, that's the character that's above your enter key. If you hold in shift and press that button, you'll get these pipes. So if we save that, we get yes it is, because it is less than 10. Okay, so let's go back to and let's put in 7. 7 comes back true, or yes, because it is greater than 5 and it's less than 10. And we can keep adding these if we want. Let's say and x is we'll say less than 8. I guess this is kind of pointless, but just to show you that you can keep adding on to this, so you can check as many things as you want. So we get yes it is. We can also use what's called an else if, and instead of just checking for something and saying if it is or it isn't, we can check multiple things. So let me just show you. It's a little easier than explaining it. So let's just get rid of these, and what we want to do is we want to say if something, then do this, else if something else, then do this, and then finally we can have an else that doesn't equate to either of these. Alright, so let's just give a variable called color, and let's set it to black. Alright, so let's say if, sorry, can't type, if color is equal to red, let's just let's print out document.write, we'll say the color is red. Okay, now let's say else if color is blue, then we'll type out the color is blue. Now what this is doing is checking to see if color is red, and then it's going to print out the color is red. Then it's checking if the color is blue, and it'll print out the color is blue. This is saying if it's anything else except red or blue. Alright, so we can, let's just do document.write the color is not red or blue. Alright, so it's very simple logic. So if we save this, if we keep it on black, if we keep the color black, let's see what's going on here. Unexpected token. I'm sorry, I get mixed up because in some languages we can keep the else if together like this. In JavaScript, this needs to be separate. So save that. So we get the color is not red or blue. So if we change this to red, I'm sure you know what's going to happen. It tells us the color is red. Alright, so that's how you do an else if. Now you can keep tagging these on, these else ifs, as many as you want. So there's no limit to the comparisons you can have. So that's it for if statements. That's pretty much the gist of it. The next thing I want to talk about is switch statements, and which basically do the same thing. So let's get rid of all this. And what we're going to do, let's set a variable x equal to 4. Alright, so what we want to do is say switch and then inside the parentheses we want to put whatever it is we're testing. In this case it's going to be x. And then we just want to open some parentheses, curly braces, just like an if statement. And we're going to use something called cases. So we're going to say if the case of x being 2, and then we want to put a colon, then we want to, let's document.write, and we'll write out, excuse me, we'll just write out x is 2. Alright, so underneath that we need to put a break, because if that's true, then we want to break out of this statement. Okay. So let's add another case before we test it out. So let's say case if x is 5, and we want to do the same thing, except we want to print out that it's 5. Alright, so if we save this, if x is equal to 4, it's not going to do anything. Let's change it to 2, and we get x is 2. Now let's change it back to 4. Now let's say we want a default behavior, just like the last else in an else if statement. We can use default. So let's document write x is not 2 or 5. So that'll be the default. So save that, and we get x is not 2 or 5. So you can see we can do the exact same thing with an if-else statement as we can with a switch. The last thing I want to do is actually paste in a switch. Nice snippets. So same type of thing. We're creating a variable called day, and that's equal to a date object. What we're doing here is instantiating a date object which comes in JavaScript in the core, I guess. And then we're getting the day property, which is just 0 through 6, which represents the days of the week. So we're saying switch, and then what we're testing is the day. Alright, so let's just echo this out. Well, we could just run this, I guess. So if the case is 0, then it's going to say it's Sunday. Okay. If the case is 1, Monday, and so on. So at the end of this, we're going to alert the value of x. So let's save this and reload, and we get today is Wednesday, which it is. So that's just another way to implement a switch statement. So that's pretty much it for conditionals. The next thing we'll be looking at is JavaScript events.